What's going on YouTube? My name is Z and I'm a certified strength and conditioning coach based in Brooklyn, and I've been training both weights and calisthenics for about 9 years now. And today's video is actually a response to someone's comment asking what are the best exercises that are realistic for someone that is looking to start calisthenics and not exercises necessarily to help them lose weight. And they're correct in asking that because no one exercise is going to help you lose weight and body fat percentage. That all comes from your diet, your nutrition, and your cardio, whether you're in a caloric deficit of being achievable by those two things once again, which are cardio and your nutrition. So if you're not taking care of your caloric deficit, making sure that you're burning more than you're consuming in, that should be your first step into evaluate, am I even setting myself up to be in a place where I'm going to lose weight, going to lose body fat percentage. But now when it comes to training, if you're overweight and you're a beginner, you really want to think about the joint stress and what exercises are going to be safe for those joints, because calisthenics is all about joint control, body stability, and it puts a lot of stress on your joints. So you really want to stay clear of any movements that are static based or stress tendons. So really stay away from your planches, your back levers, front levers, human flex. Any static based movement or any lever based movement, you want to stay clear because there's going to put too much stress in your joints. Even for the basic progressions, you want to stay clear of those types of exercises. But something that I do recommend is going to be just working on your scapular control. I believe that anyone can start working on your scapular control, especially once you do lose that body fat percentage. Then you're going to be so in tune with your scapula that you're going to be ready to go once you're ready to start training heavier and more types of calisthenics movements. So these are going to be things like scapular push-ups, where you're just focusing on retracting and protracting; scapular pull-ups, focusing on depressing your shoulder blades at the start of most pull-in movements in calisthenics; and just any sort of scapular mobility type exercises. There's a bunch that you can find online. Let me know if you want me to make a video on those. Scapular rolls on the floor, any type of banded dislocations for your shoulders. You're not actually going to dislocate your shoulders, but that's just the name of the exercise. Basically moving your shoulders through all the ranges of motions, whether it's elevation, depression, protraction, retraction, and just these types of movements are going to be great for beginners. I also highly recommend incline push-ups as opposed to just doing regular push-ups on the floor, because incline push-ups, you can scale it really easily as you build your strength, and it doesn't put too much stress in your joints because you're not going directly against gravity. So you can start on a wall where you're just pushing against a wall if you're a complete beginner, or if you have a little bit of strength, then you can start working on incline where you do like a high incline and then keep progressing it lower and lower until you reach the floor and you're parallel with gravity. And you can do this with the barbell, you can do this in the Smith machine, you can do it on any sturdy platform, a bot. So it really depends. You just be creative with the different levels, the different inclines. And something that's even better than doing this on a bot or some type of bar is doing it with gymnastic rings, because then you're going to be able to get a little bit more range of motion, start working on that stability component for calisthenics in a safe way. And you're just going to and rings, you're able to scale it really easily. Just change the height of the rings and that changes your incline. Now, so that's the push movement. Let's get into pulling. Highly recommend inverted rows. Again, you can do this on any type of bar in a squat rack, a Smith machine, or again with gymnastic rings, or even with TRX rows / straps. You can change the incline as you raise and lower the straps. And the reason why I recommend inverted rows is because you're going to be balanced, because you're going to also be building your upper body strength, your back strength, and while you're building your pushing strength with those incline push-ups. So, and you really want your body to be balanced, because you want to make sure your shoulders are not, you're protecting your posture, you're not rounding your shoulders forward, and you just want to counterbalance anything that you do. So you can scale it really easily, and almost any beginner can find some sort of incline level where you could pull yourself, and make sure that you're pulling yourself to your sternum. Try not to pull to your neck, that I see a lot of beginners do. When they're pulling themselves, you want to pull to your sternum at least. Lower, don't try to pull to your waist, because then that's going to get really hard, and that's actually a form of a front lever row progression. But generally around your sternum area is going to be good for you to aim for. So incline push-ups, inverted rows, scapular progressions, whether it's scap push-ups, scap pull-ups, or any type of other scapular mobility. And I really recommend that beginners start just hanging. You may only be able to hang for 1 to 5 seconds, but the good thing about forms is that they're generally able to recover quickly from set to set. So you can throw in a few sets of this at the end of your training, start building that growth strength that you're really going to need in calisthenics. And I also recommend that you start training your core. I'm not going to give specific exercises because it really depends exactly on your frame and where your fat is distributed. If your fat is distributed all around the stomach and abdominal area, you may not be able to get into a plank or do certain movements. So really just think about what you're able to do, what's accessible to you, but definitely start training your core. Almost anyone is going to be able to do a hollow hold, some sort of hollow hold progression, maybe a captain's chair crunch to start working those lower abs. But generally just be creative and start training your core. That should be safe and a recommendation for most most overweight people. Now, with all of that being said, I actually recommend to beginners, especially overweight beginners, to start training in the gym. You really want to just be focusing on being in a caloric deficit with your nutrition and cardio, but I recommend that you actually start training in the gym with the weights, barbells, machines, as opposed to calisthenics, because you're able to scale it a lot easier and you don't really have to worry about your joints as much. Let's take a pull-up for example. If I ask someone that's 300 pounds to do a bodyweight pull-up, they have to pull 300 pounds, their entire body weight. Even if they use a resistance band, most resistance bands aren't going to be able to take off 300 pounds unless you're stacking tons of resistance bands, and one may not have access to bands, may not know how to use them properly. There's a learning curve as a beginner using resistant bands with pull-ups, or say I need to take off 300 pounds of resistance to do a pull-up. If I weigh 300 pounds, I'm going to need a really large resistance band that might be really hard to pull down to even use in the first place. It might just be really stiff, and then God forbid something goes wrong, that really thick resistance bands might be smacking you in the face. And I'm not trying to be funny. That's the reality of working resistance bands. I'm not trying to scare you away from these things at all, but it is reality, and there's just a better alternative. Say you're trying to learn pull-up, instead of trying to do resistance bands or bodyweight pull-ups that you may not even be able to do, you could start with the lat pull down in the gym. You could do 10 pounds, 15 pounds, 20 pounds. You could literally start training with 10 pounds instead of asking your body to pull 300 pounds. So it's really beginner appropriate because, there's going to be some weight, some sort of machine that beginners can start training right away. And that way you can start building that mind-muscle connection, and you don't have to worry about that joint stress as much as if you were just doing body weight movements. So my recommendation is actually to start just focusing on the gym, building strength, getting used to working out, building a routine in the gym as opposed to doing calisthenics. And once you've lowered your body fat percentage, once you get used to the gym, then you can start incorporating more calisthenics movements and more body weight variety as well. So let me know if you have any more specific questions that you want me to respond to in a video. I'll be happy to. Or just if you have any comments or questions about what I said in this video. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.